I'm calling to order the April 8th meeting of the Auburn Board of Selectmen. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Select Board is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely, you can dial 1-408-650-3123 with access code 235-235-861, or the public can join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join/235-235-861. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note, this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is there anyone in the audience also recording? Seeing none, we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to open up the meeting with a couple of public comments. Jason, I don't want to try to say your last name. I'm going to get it wrong. Kubert, okay. Would you like to come up? Over or at the seat, as long as you're at a microphone.
Hello, my name's Jason Kubert from Precinct 3. I'm here today to help bring a bylaw that would hope be created against wage theft on public projects. The former chair, Tristan LaLiberty, did a great job getting this contract written up. It's actually something that's been done in multiple municipalities throughout Massachusetts. It's just language that helps give municipalities power and strength against contractors that fail to pay proper wages on public projects, which you would think with all the oversight, there wouldn't be any of that happening. But it happens a lot more than people know. So this bylaw is something that was already drafted. I believe, I don't know if all of you've seen it, but I'm hoping to see if we can bring this back up and get a vote for it with the town. I'm also a town meeting member, so.
Great. Thank you so much. It is something we are discussing later, and I think if any board members have any questions, maybe you could help answer them.
Yes, I can stay for a little bit, but I can leave my contact information. If any questions, they can call me.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
We have a second public comment from John Lawson. Lawson, I'm sorry.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Lozon. I reside down on Main Street in Auburn. At the very bottom, number 10. I have three issues. One's pollution. One is illegal aliens in a hotel down the road, and the other one is the way police treat people around here. I moved in Auburn in 1966. Is everyone here present, or are we waiting on anybody?
Everyone here is present.
Just 6 you selectmen?
There's 5 selectmen, 5 board members, and the town manager.
Oh, I got you, okay. So anyway, I live down on Main Street, and that's the reason it's called Main Street is because we had the Pondville Mill down there. It was in operation for almost 200 years, from the late 1700s, early 1800s, up until the 1970s when it finally burnt. Anyhow, they plowed over in the early 80s. They had the bulldozers go down, plow everything, the man-made pond, and this dirty, polluted water, I can see right over the edge of my yard, that's still coming through from Stoneville, leaches into the mill pond. You can see the crud coming up through into the old mill building where it used to go to operate the machinery in there, which actually made Civil War uniforms. Anyhow, they went through and it goes out into Kettlebrook Reservoir, right under the bridge when you go down Oxford Street and there's a bridge there, Stoneville Pond to your left, it goes under the falls and goes down there. So all that cruddy water goes into there and then it finds its way into Blackstone. And I read something, the water department declared like all the waterways around here clean and everything. I don't know how that can be when that crap's going on down there. Also, you could call them undocumented. They're illegal aliens. That's what's going on down here. I moved in here in 1966. I left for 4 years in the military. 26 months was overseas. So, I've been here for a long time. I've been paying taxes for a long time. I'm just interested in what exactly is going on over here and why it's kind of a big hush-hush thing. And for the third thing is my mother. I live in a duplex. Number 12 is my mother. I live in number 10. And my brother's been over there, and I don't particularly care for the way he's caring for my mother. So we called for an elderly check one day, and everything was fine. Then the second day, my wife called again. Then the cop called my wife for 26 minutes and 54 seconds. About 90 seconds was to give her, telling her how the visit went with my mother. And the other 20-something minutes were giving her all sorts of crap, saying she can't call again or we're going to arrest her for false arrest. And I called my mother 4 times in a row one morning, and I just got hang up, so I thought it was my brother. Cops went there. They looked at the phone. They said, oh, he never called. So the cop tells my wife to come find him with a screenshot of my phone to come prove my innocence. But I got him one better. I took a screenshot and I went to CVS and I made it 8x10 and put it in a frame for him. So, I'd like to know what's going on in this town because I'm really not happy. And I've been living here for 58 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the concern about pond pollution something that would solely live with the water district, or could DPW into that?
Come down my house and show it to you.
Madam Chair, I will reach out to Mr. Greg Wiggs, the superintendent of the Water District, and have a conversation with him relative to that.
Thank you. At the next meeting, could we get an update on the migrants that are in the hotels?
Happy to.
Thank you. And your final concern was a police issue. We can pass along your concern to the chief, and he can certainly look into that.
I don't want to deal with the chief. I don't want to deal with anyone else. I just want people to know what's going on. Because these cops don't know me because I've never been in trouble. And they don't know my wife because she's never been in trouble. And all of a sudden this is happening. I just want the select people to be notified, put it on notice here, because any more trouble with this guy, then it's going to be a big deal.
Thank you for that information. That is all we have for public comments. We do have a presentation and public hearing for Coco's Tropical Ice. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. So is anybody from Coco's here? Did you guys want to come up? You can come up here, you can come sit if you prefer, whatever's. Okay. Did you guys want to tell us a little bit about your request, your licensing request?
Oh, I guess it's me. We're just looking to reopen Coco's Tropical Ice. We bought the business over from Donna, and we think we've got everything squared away and ready to go, but we just needed to come here and speak to you guys to make sure we're all set.
Okay. Are there any public questions? Do select board members have any questions? Do we have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Is there a motion on the application?
I would make a motion that we approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon them. Fail to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions recommended by the DCG to be placed upon the license,
Second.
licenses.
So there was a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Oh,
Thank you so
fabulous.
much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Next, we have departmental items, the wayfinding signage from,
Madam Chair, if I may, members of the board, I asked Brooke to come in to give a presentation to the board in terms of identification on where some signage has been selected to go. This signage is funded through an earmark that we got from the state, $100,000 earmark. Some of that money was used for decorative banners and wreaths down on Auburn Street, on the new section that was repaved. That's $6 million project. And this grant has already been extended once, and it is date sensitive. So what's the expiration date on the grant? Brooke, do you?
The grant does not expire until July 1st, 2025.
Anyway, before we go out to bid on some signage in various sections of town, we wanted to present it to the board to see if you had any ideas or any feedback that you could give us that would help better the project. So with that, Brooke is going to give a brief presentation to the board.
So I believe in the packet provided, there is a map of the sign locations as well as the signage elements, and they're labeled with letters, and the letters correspond to the sign locations. But this was just a presentation that I put together to show where exactly on the streets those signs would be. I can go through these and explain them all, or I can just go through them quickly if you'd like. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Okay. So they are focused on Route 12 and 20, which are the commercial corridors throughout town, as well as centered around Drury Square to complement the ongoing improvements there. Oh, sorry. This is the second one. Third. This is by the high school. I apologize, I didn't label these slides accordingly. Another Southbridge Street. This is Route 20 as well, near Worcester. This is Pinehurst. And this is off the exit going onto Route 12 and on Brotherton Way. And that was all of them. I have been working with Joanna at the DPW department because the signs that are on Route 12 and 20 do need to be permitted by Mass DOT because that is their jurisdiction. So once we get the quote and we get everything squared away, we'll be applying for those permits. A few of them do not need permits, and I think that is noted on the map, the few that do not need the permits, but a few of them will. I think we can apply for one blanket permit to cover all of the signs that require the permits.
thank you. Do board members have any questions?
So from the front page, there seems to be consistency in the height. Will there be consistency in the height on these installations? Will there be varying? So on your presentation, they look like they're varying heights, but on here, looks like a lot of them are consistently level. I just want to make sure or understand what the extent is.
The heights will be consistent, pretty much with this scale here. If one in particular requires a shorter post for any reason, like these ones with a singular post, that may be something that DOT determines. I'm not sure yet, but for the most part, they'll be pretty consistent, yes.
So the intent is
Yeah.
consistency. Okay, that's what I was asking, just because when you showed the pictures, they,
Oh, yes,
look
I'm
very-
sorry.
and-
That
and I-
was, that was just to show the approximate size, but nothing on that was to scale. That was just a quick little presentation to help visualize where they would be.
I think it's great. I think it helps market the town, and definitely beautifies the signage that we would normally see. And then, again, with the seasonal signing, the banners, great opportunity there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any board members have questions?
Thank you very much for this. I love the marketing of the town as well as the color palette and how it all blends together. I just have one question with respect to the sign E and sign I, which are the directory signs.
Yes.
Are those meant to be directory for automobiles or for pedestrian scale? The only reason why I ask is because I have some experience with Mr. Faberman's designs similar to this in another community. And sometimes on those signs in particular, the wording gets a little bit small with respect to the print. So it's meant for motor vehicle, depending on where they're located. You can't always see it because it's too small of a print unless you're stopped in front of it. So I would just keep that in mind in terms of where we're placing these in town for those two directional signs. That, you know, if they're meant for motor vehicles, put them near intersections or stop signs. That way the vehicle stopped can actually see it, which way to go.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't considered that just yet, but I would think because there's one sign I and that is at a vehicle intersection, not necessarily a pedestrian way, that we could have the lettering be a little bit bigger on that sign. Whereas sign E, that is on a sidewalk, so that is for pedestrians.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions that I can answer? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have no communications. We do have in the select board general items, an open air license by the Boy Scouts Troop 101. Gentlemen like to come up?
My name's Chris Sylvester. I'm a assistant scoutmaster for Troop 101, and we filed paperwork to get a permit to have a yard sale on Memorial Day weekend. It's something we've done for as long as I can remember. It's the one-day event. We set up and it all break down and gets cleaned up by us. We make sure it's better than we found the parking lot. It's usually at the Auburn Public Library. This is actually one of our second-class scouts.
Wonderful. Do board members have any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any law that found validate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions recommended by the DCG to be placed on the license.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we waive the fee for the nonprofit organization.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. You guys are all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have
Where
another,
would we pick that up? Or do I need to pick it up ahead of time?
Over in the little brick building, so if you call in advance, we just want to make sure that it's available for you before you come and pick it up.
As long as we have it for the yard sale, we're good.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
thank you. We have a transient vendor license. Is there somebody here? Would you please come up, tell us about your request?
My name is Grant Fabry. It is a transient vendor license for Sauce and Toss Chicken Co., a food truck we run out of Charlton.
Do board members have any questions? It's just event-based, correct?
Say again?
It's just for events? Like there, you don't plan to just park in a parking lot? It's,
Not without permission
Okay.
of the property owner of that lot.
thank you. Is there a motion?
Okay, I ask a question. How often do you expect to be setting up?
It really depends. We're looking to be over at Sheldon's Harley Davidson pretty soon. I think they have like a Thursday night bike night. That might be a weekly thing. We'll really have to see how it goes once we start setting up in Auburn.
Thank you.
I believe in the past, you just have to make sure that the Board of Health knows that you're going to be in town for these activities. Was that expressed?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion that we approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, with the conditions recommended by the DCG to be placed upon said license.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you. Moving on, we have a drain layers license. Is the applicant here? It doesn't seem like. Is this a renewal? They don't have to be here, right?
they don't have to.
Okay, perfect. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state, town, and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license, subject to all conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Moving along, we are at the annual town meeting warrant articles. How would we like to take these? Are there any, would we like to take them in larger groups? Do you want to go through each article item? I defer to what the board would prefer to do.
I think we can take them in, some of them in groups.
Okay,
So I'd like to ask a question about Article 17.
sure.
And this one is about the opioid settlement revenue. Was this because we weren't allowed to have a specific account and it went into the general fund and now it's being asked to be separated?
That is correct. I provided a report to the board several weeks ago with regards to these proceeds. At the time, DOR did not allow for the establishment and the creation of a special revenue account, which they have since authorized in December of 2023. As a result of that, we're required to, because it was recorded in the general fund and closed out to free cash, we're required to vote it out of free cash, put it in this special reserve account, and it can't expend for the purposes as allowed under the opioid settlement agreement.
Thank you.
Are there any other articles that members have questions on?
Just one general question and one specific. General question with respect to the budget. Has the Finance Committee concluded their work? Have they recommended any changes? Have they, compared to what we were presented?
The budget was voted as recommended by the town manager, with the exception of we reinstated the celebration accounts that originally were stripped out of the budget when it was presented to the board. That value was about $10,500. So the budget, right now, we have to make some slight changes to local receipts to balance the budget. But the budget as presented and recommended by the Finance Committee utilizes all of 2.5, no more than 2.5. It doesn't bite into any of the excess levy. And there could be some modification to the budget, all depending on the final outcome of the state numbers. But right now, we have a balanced budget.
Are you looking for a vote on those specific warrant articles tonight, or are we holding that until we have a?
Well, we do have to
back to
vote on
us.
it to send to town meeting. So we would vote to approve or to recommend or
Okay.
not to recommend.
Because I just have a couple other
Or defer
questions.
to petitioner. So if there's questions, we can always defer or not recommend.
Right. I just, there were just some open-ended questions from the presentation with respect to, when you made the presentation to us, there was some questions on whether the school department may be looking to cut a couple positions. So I didn't know the status of that.
So the school department original request was 5.63. My recommendation was 4.5%. It was about a 300 and some odd $1,000 reduction to live within the parameters of 2.5. They took the budget back. The school committee voted at 4.5. When the superintendent came before the finance committee, she had indicated that a couple of retirements that were scheduled for the upcoming FY25 may not be filled as a result of that reduction. But they were looking at other areas of monies that they received from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that they were allowed to reserve as a result of the reimbursement for the educational aspect of those sheltered families. They're allowed to carry that over, and that somewhat took a pinch off the need for FY25.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Hi.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's correct. So as of this point, we have 2 retiree positions that were not filled to help to meet the 4% request from the town. Again, we're going to wait and see how the money from the state plays out, and maybe that will help us. And we have not determined where those cuts will take place right now. We're going to wait and see as we get closer to the end of the year, what our enrollment is to make the best decision that has the least impact on our students.
Thank you, Dr. Chamberlain. Can I just confirm that, so you're not cutting those positions from your budget, you'll just leave them unfilled, and have the ability to fill them when you're able to?
Hopefully, yes. Yes, they are 2 positions for retirees, so no one's being cut per se, but those positions are not being filled.
And I just want to make sure you're carrying those positions so that 2 years from now or 1 year from now, you'll be able to fill them without having to create a new position. I just want to make sure the school department isn't losing any positions on the books.
Well, right now, I will say that they do look like a loss on the books because we can't carry them if they have no financial value in the budget. So we don't carry those forward. But again, I'm not quite sure where those are going to be. So it could be a pinch down the road based on our enrollment. But again, our enrollment has been down somewhat. We've seen a bit of an uptick with our newly arrived students. But, we're doing our part to support the town and what we have to do in a way that I think will have a very minimal impact on our kids. But nonetheless, it's a hit for us. But I think we all have to give a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Dr. Chamberlain, thank you for participating tonight. Can I make a recommendation? Is there any way that in order to recognize those positions, you fund them for $1 in FY25? So there is a value to it, so you don't lose it. And then when time allows, we can refund those positions at the value that normally would have been funded in FY25.
Well, thank you for that question. That's not something that I've done before, but certainly if the town is in support of that, I would be happy to do so.
So what I would suggest, just to keep it clean, instead of amending the budget by $2, if you could internally or administratively assign $1 to those by doing a transfer, just so those positions are recognized by not only school administration, but by the school committee as well.
Yes, we'll look into that and I'll make sure it's done properly.
Through the chair, may I ask? So by holding those positions, do you also have to hold the benefits? And is there really a benefit to that, whereas we can add positions at a future date should we need those positions?
So there would be no benefits associated with those positions, but certainly the benefit line, the group insurance, and any other benefits would be able to absorb a value if those positions are reinstated.
So by holding those positions, you have to pay for insurance to include those positions?
No.
No.
So
Even if filled, there's no guarantee that the individual is going to select the benefit from the town. They could select it from their spouse.
So in reality, what is the benefit of assigning $1 and having them when they can come back the next year and ask for those positions?
Because they're never taken off the books. It's showing a vacant position for $1. It recognizes a position.
So that way, if they have the ability to fill them, they do not have to go through the process of recreating a position. And if they are collectively bargained positions, they would then have to collectively impact bargain because they're creating new positions under the union, whereas these positions already exist. They're carrying them on their books just unfilled so that when they have the ability, they can fill them without having to go through a very long, drawn-out process to do so.
Are there any other questions on warrant articles?
I apologize. I have a couple other questions. Just more of a statement. So Article 7, which deals with the authorization of the select board to sell at public auction or by sealed bid or at assessed value under any special circumstances, any properties which the town may have acquired, may hereafter acquire through a tax lien foreclosure. Last year, you may remember when I was a town meeting member, I raised the concern that pending court's decisions before the U.S. Supreme Court was taking up a case on where doing this under Massachusetts state law was not going to be allowed because essentially what happens is when you foreclose, the municipality was selling and taking 100% of the sale price. The Supreme Court has since ruled on it and stated that the municipality cannot do that, and that the municipality, once they foreclose and sell, they can only take what was owed to them, and they have to give the rest back to the previous homeowner. And there were hearings before the State House on legislation because the Attorney General's office ruled that the current Mass state law is unconstitutional now. So I just want to preface that this article here, as written, is going to be impacted by the state legislation, and that we may not be able to act until that legislation is actually done. Now, my understanding is the town has not done this in a very long time, but I just want to make sure that anything that we do complies with state law in that changing. The other thing I had in Article 11, this is regarding Chapter 90 money that comes to municipality based on a formula, and it can be used for public infrastructure. I see that we dedicated towards specifically roads and roads only in this wording, and I just want to ask, Chapter 90 can be used for sidewalks, traffic signals, signage, pavement markings, everything on the road. Is the definition here roads just the curb-to-curb road, or does it include allowance for expenditures on sidewalk, on pavement markings, on handicap ramps, et cetera? Or is the definition of a road?
All of what you had mentioned, it is eligible for, so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure under this wording that we did not limit ourselves. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions on specific articles?
Article 13, do we have a dollar amount?
We do not. Through the chair, I just had a conversation with the treasurer collector this afternoon with regards to a value. The Bartholomew investment quarter is ending in April. We should have a value within the next week. So whatever is earned on that investment of $500,000 is appropriated in its entirety towards that line item. It's been as low as $9,000, it's been as high as $21,000, so it all depending, and we're getting a good rate of return on our investment. So I'm guessing, based upon last year's value, it's going to be north of 20, but I can't say with certainty until such time that number comes in.
Article 18, I know Article 17 was related to the lack of account available. Article 18, to to revoke the dedication of all revenue. Is that similar? It's just,
So in addition to the explanation I gave a little earlier about the opioid settlement, because we were not allowed to establish a separate standing account, and we had to deposit those initial proceeds to the general fund, we were allowed and did create a stabilization account that the money can go into. One receipt went in there, like $27,000, that's currently sitting in there. Because that account was established and allowed by DOR in December, it does not require this stabilization account to be in place anymore. So we're revoking that, and whatever money is in there will also go into the special account allowed to be established by DOR.
and there doesn't need to be a separate article for whatever money to get transferred, or that sum is the 134, 270?
That sum in the stabilization account is roughly $27,000. By revoking that, we had this discussion with the CFO at the Finance Committee earlier in the week, last week. That money, according to DOR, can automatically be deposited into the new special revenue account,
Assuming it passes.
assuming it passes, yes.
Thank you. Then Article 19, the vote to appropriate $30,000 for an ambulance appropriations account to cover the balance of the new ambulance. I thought we had 300,000 that was dedicated to that. Then we received a gift, and that 300,000 was reallocated for something not including the ambulance. Is that?
No, the last vote taken for that, there was the gift account which purchased its own ambulance. There was enough.
Oh, there's a separate.
This is separate. And because of the escalation in costs, it was $30,000 shy.
Okay. In my head, I was thinking it was that gifted ambulance, and I didn't
No.
realize. Okay. That answers probably 10 more questions. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think I'm done asking questions, so.
Do other board members have questions? So is there a motion to take some of the articles to recommend? How would you like to move forward?
A question for Ms. Kesnovich. Do we need to make a recommendation on Article 1?
No, you do
No.
not.
But we should on 2 and everything else, right?
Yes.
I make a motion that we make a recommendation for Articles 2 through 10. Those are annual articles, things we do every year, just so that our departments can operate.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. Is there a motion? Sorry.
Madam
did
Chair, I
you
don't know if
want-
Mr.
I'm
Corinne
sorry.
had a,
I had a question after the second, but I didn't, you were on a roll, so
Sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. Those articles include the full budget that,
Article 3 is a full budget, Article 4 is a capital budget.
I'm going to abstain. The only reason I'm going to abstain is because we don't have a final budget number before us, and I'm not comfortable voting on it until we do.
Okay.
Mr. Corinne, I can provide that to you if you want the final number in its totality. I do have that number, but
Yeah, I mean, I would want to see it ahead of time before I take a vote and on the budget and say that I'm going to recommend this without actually seeing the final budget before us. It's just my own thing that I'm just not comfortable doing without actually seeing the final budget sent to us once the Finance Committee finished their work.
That is fair. However, I think there were 4 yeses. So those are going forward as recommended. Is there a motion for other articles?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we recommend Articles 11 to 15.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can I ask that we remove 13 and 14 from that? So I'm
Further
prepared to
discussion?
support
Or for until final numbers?
until the
are-
final numbers are presented in those empty line items.
Okay,
So I can amend the motion. I say we recommend Articles 11 through 12, 11 and 12, and then 15.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. For Articles 13 and 14, did we,
I think at this point, I would make recommendations for Article 13 and 14 that we defer to the petitioner.
is there a
We
second?
we have at least 2 more meetings before this, correct? Do we think that we won't get those numbers before then?
If I can ask the superintendent, Dr. Chamberlain, I think we talked about McKinney-Vento being available before town meeting, maybe the end of April. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, that's what Cecilia was told. Yes. McKinney-Vento, yes.
And I know we'll have a number based upon a conversation I expressed earlier with the treasurer collector. We should have a number on the high school trust, gymnasium trust in a week. So we should have values for both of those in time for your next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so would we like to hold on those 2 articles until the next meeting? Okay.
Do I need to withdraw that motion then, or?
Well, if there's no second.
Okay. So moving along to the next set of articles or individual articles at 16.
Madam Chair, I vote that we recommend Article 16.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend Articles 17 and 18.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
And Madam Chair, I make a motion that we recommend Article 19.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Make a motion that Articles 20, 21, 22, we defer to the petitioner.
Second.
All those in favor?
Can I just ask a question? What is the defer to a petitioner? What's we don't support it, but we don't oppose it?
Correct. I think there will be questions around these. And again, we're not the experts, but I know that these boards have put the time and effort in.
Yep.
And I think if they answer the questions appropriately, I wouldn't want to deter anyone from voting either way. So deferring to the petitioner allows for more conversation to be had.
Just for the record, I'm prepared to support them, but I'll go along with that vote.
So there was a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. So that puts us at, is that all of them? Did we miss
That's
one?
all of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we are going to hold on Articles 13 and 14 till our next meeting, until we have some numbers, so we can move along. There are no proclamations or recognitions. Is a vote for the 2024 secondhand junk license renewals. Is there a motion?
Before a motion, can I just verify that these have all been vetted and there are no issues? But the town has not identified any issues with any of the applicants.
It says it on the next page.
Well, clearly, I'm not reading.
So I do have a question about, is this the time of year that this happens. It's not a normal business renewal license or these, again, I haven't seen any of these, so I'm assuming they're not straggler license.
I would have to check the history on the renewal date, but it's my understanding that these are annual renewals that take place roughly this time of year.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the licenses, subject to our standard language.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. We have some gift acceptances.
Make a motion that we accept the gift for $500 to the, in memory of Emile Montville, to the fire department gift account, with a letter to be prepared for the chair's signature.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well.
Make a motion that we accept the gift to the Independence Day celebration in the amount of $2,500 from Bank Hometown, with a letter to be prepared for the chair's signature.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. We are moving to the town manager item.
Madam Chair, before we move to that, because I do see Mr. Kubert is here, and I know he said that he was busy, and I think Mr. LaLiberty was on as well. Can I make a motion to move up member item 10B, just so that seems that we have people here, we can discuss it?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. So in our packets, this is mine, there is the wage theft bylaw that was proposed, as well as some information from town council. And tonight I would be looking for a vote to either create a subcommittee to look into this a little bit further, or to, if the board feels like there is enough information in our packets, to make a determination on this. So do board members have any questions? Certainly.
So again, it's already a crime for wage theft. And what I see here is it's going to cost us administratively to manage that. And I didn't know. Oh, no, may I ask him to come up and answer?
Certainly,
So
yeah.
I wanted to know if there was data behind that and what we could expect, again, to manage this process, and what, and you said it's happened in other towns. I imagine you have more information on how this is handled administratively.
Typically, just the language, especially when it comes to a town. When it comes to a city, it's broader. They do a lot of TIFs regularly. When it comes to public projects, there's an abundance of them regularly. So this language, ultimately, it comes down to preventing contractors that engage in this type of business practice from even bidding the job, because they know they'll be, eventually if caught, then, they'll be, there's no clawbacks, you're not given a TIF. It's ultimately just protecting the taxpayers' money when misclassification takes place and no one's paying taxes, because it happens. It's constant. It's a deterrent. And hopefully the honest contractors, because there's tons of evidence, if they've been found guilty by the state or any state agency, they have to show these items when they bid the project. So they won't be able to do that. It's a protection for the town and the taxpayers, ultimately. And it's just language. There's no administration oversight. It's pretty much, it's in the bidding documents for it to be read by said contractors that are bidding the job. And if there's no worries, they move on with their bid. If they know they're going to have a problem, we don't want them bidding anyway. Good riddance.
So you've seen this work as an active deterrent?
Oh, for sure.
Example, like, so
The
someone
town-
goes out to bid, and these people, if they have a history, they just don't submit, but
They're not allowed to. So the way this typically works in other municipalities is that they're specifically not allowed, they're disqualified if they have been found guilty of violating wage theft, either by a state agency another jurisdiction, courts, et cetera. So if they've been found guilty, they are no longer qualified to place a bid. So it automatically rules them out from qualification. So additionally, what it does is during the bidding process, they have to sign agreements saying that I understand that if I bid on this work and I get this work, I understand that the town has this policy and I'm going to go by this policy. And then if they violate that policy, one, it provides that evidence that one, they knowingly knew the policy, they violated it. So it provides support to the employees when they file their lawsuit in order to claw back that money. And what it also does is it also disqualifies them from bidding on any other public job, not only in our municipality, but any other municipality.
So how does this differ from the law? Wage theft is a crime.
So the state law, so actually, if, you know, right now, our Massachusetts state wage theft law is actually considered rather weak compared to other states. It requires an employee to file suit, first complain to the AG's office and then file suit. It requires them to invest their own personal money, and if they're successful, then they can get their money, their legal fees, an X amount back. However, there's nothing currently in our state law that forbids that company from then bidding again without, you know, this type of municipality or within these municipalities that have that. And that's why there are legislation pending, but, you know, and again, I was reading an article today about it, was that they are quote unquote languishing in committee. And certainly enough, I went to the bills, put in wage theft, and there's 10 bills that were filed in the 2021 session, the 19 session, and they're all still stuck in committee. They might get released. The next release date is April 30th, I believe, for 3 of the main bills. But that's why municipalities, Chelsea, Cambridge, Boston, and again, you know, former town manager Jacobson did a very good job on this detailed memo that she put together, outlining that these other municipalities, because of the deficiencies in state law, have passed either city ordinances, town bylaws, or city bylaws in order to protect those municipalities. And they range. So there are some that just deal with bidding for public jobs. There's some that actually are much more widespread and cover anyone doing work in the town, whether you're doing work on a private project in the town or a public project in the town. And I'll be honest with you, I have not read the draft bylaw that was provided. I'm guessing that it's probably the one that was provided.
It's public, it's just
Yeah,
for
a couple
public.
of years ago from you know, former Chair of the Liberty, who was joining us from Japan. Thank you very much, Tristan, for
Oh,
joining
goodness
us.
gracious.
And Mr. Kubert. But, you know, in an early email that Mr. Kasanovich, Town Manager Kasanovich, sent to us to sort of tee this up, he made a recommendation that in this draft bylaw and based on what, you know, Ms. Jacobson had in her memo, there are still these open-ended questions on how wide of a net do we want to cast, how not wide of a net do we want to cast. Do we want to do stuff with respect to, you know, requiring that they provide their weekly or monthly payroll, which is what Worcester does, or not do that like Framingham does. And what he recommends is, you know, if we do want to go down this route or continue down this route, because 2 boards have already voted for this, is to perhaps form a subcommittee to answer these questions, revise and refine the language, and then come back for a final vote before this board, before going to town meeting with this. And that's sort of, you know, I think that's probably the best course, because we do have still these questions that still remain, is to have a subcommittee formed that sort of weeds out these questions, puts together a final package, what it looks like, not for Cambridge, not for Boston, not for Worcester, not for Amherst or Framingham, but what it looks for Auburn and what works for Auburn, to ensure that the employees are protected, that are hired by these companies, especially since there is a very good potential. We are going to be going out to bid at some point in the very near future for the construction of a new fire station. And we have certainly done new school buildings. There's talk of libraries and others. So we want to make sure that we have these, and those are large projects, but it's also your everyday bidding that the town does for work as well. So, I mean, I think a subcommittee, I'm very supportive of the bylaw and the wage theft, but I think it needs some more fine tuning. And I think a subcommittee, is probably the best way to go. It's just my own personal opinion, since there are still these questions on how it works. But I think that, with the deficiencies in the state law and with the fact that there were projects in Auburn very recently, I will not mention contractors, but they involved former public property that went through an RFP process with the town of Auburn that involved cases of wage theft as they were being constructed. So this is a very real issue. It's a very real issue in the last 3 to 4 years, and it's a very real issue the last 3 to 4 years in Auburn. And the example of that is actually being used in at least one of these municipalities right now to throw out one of the potential bidders on a public job because they have that wage theft bylaw protecting it.
Certainly, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I couldn't put it any better. I want to just emphasize the point. The wider the net, the more compliance and the more oversight is required. All depends how you if you want to just laser focus on public construction projects, that's one thing. And there is a level of oversight relative to that because we have to check out the certified payrolls that are submitted by the general contractor as it relates to that project, and are they accurate and are they consistent? So there is a level of oversight, not to the extent that would apply to some of these other aspects that need to be determined as to whether or not you want it as part of the wage theft bylaw. So when you look at the wage theft bylaw, you may want to consider any vendor we do business with through the town, whether they're in compliance or not. What businesses are licensed by the Board of Selectmen, whether it applies to them or not. So I think it all depends on the volume of what it's applicable to is going to determine the level of oversight and compliance required on behalf of the town.
Agreed. You're right. It's broad. We can chisel it down to a fine point of where we want this to lie. So back to the paperwork, this certified paper, that's all state mandated stuff anyway. So that's the standard practice a municipality has to do. The only thing that might change was having a sign-in sheet. So they sign in and sign out every day from work. That's a simple ask. That's the general contractor literally having a sign-in sheet. When they come in the morning, they have to sign in and sign out. That's something very little that doesn't take much effort at all. But that's something that really helps when you try to have, when contractors literally have people coming on the job site that were never there before. It happens. I don't want to get in the weeds with it, but we can work something out. I'm very happy to be a part of that committee if you choose to go that route. I do have experience in it, so.
Like I said, I'm happy to entertain either a discussion tonight or a subcommittee, and either one is fine. And my biggest concern is, while we are putting forth such a lean budget, that an employee would have to work on monitoring this, and I don't know that we have the ability to hire an employee at this time that has those qualifications. And I also am not certain that our employees do a ton of good work. And I don't know that we could add this on to someone else's current position. So that is really my biggest concern, would be managing the compliance aspect of it.
Can I just ask, since he is in Japan and did join us, I'm not sure what time it is over there, but can we allow a former member of this board, Mr. Liberty, to
Certainly.
speak? Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. It's 8:30 in the morning here, so it's not too bad, but I'm on nights right now, so it's my bedtime. Yeah, I don't think I could say anything that you didn't already say more eloquently and with more knowledge than I would have tried to get across. I think when I first proposed this, the intent was that it would only apply to municipal contracts, specifically looking at the potential to build at the time we were talking a public safety complex, not just new fire station. So what could have been an even larger project, and pulling in contractors and subcontractors and wanting to ensure that workers were protected. So I'm glad this came back, because I think it is very important for the reasons you mentioned. This is something that occurred in Auburn while I was on the board, the event that you referenced, and that's what inspired this originally. So it is relevant. It will continue to be relevant so long as Auburn is building public works. So I hope that the board, I would encourage you to create a subcommittee to look at this, refine the bylaw, and find a way to make it work that's not going to force you to bring on another employee or work someone beyond what the town is capable of doing. But we'll ensure that employees are protected. So I think that would be my hope, that you come from tonight and send it to a subcommittee, create some kind of committee to tailor this to Auburn's needs. Thanks.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Carpenter.
So Mr. Kubert has offered to serve, and we as a board cannot create a committee like that. So if we were going to create or ask for a committee to be created, quite rightly, the town manager and his staff deals with contract management. This board does not. So if we go the route, which would then potentially allow Mr. Kubert, and, my recommendation, if to the manager, for what it's worth, is we should have a balanced committee that you appoint, which would also have representation from the business community. Because so far, we've heard from labor, which I'm very grateful that you've come, but we've only heard that side of the story. So we got to hear both sides of the story. And Mr. Liberty will remember that I said that when we originally brought that up. And while we're mentioning the event was resolved immediately by then Town Manager Jacobson, by making a call to the general contractor, who immediately said, if this sub doesn't pay, we're going to pay. So I do think that there are multiple ways that this can be dealt with. But if it is the board's wish to create a committee, I would recommend to the board that we ask the town manager to create a committee so that we can have a wide group. And of course, it is more appropriate that a committee be created by himself, because it falls to him and his staff to do contract maintenance. And, that's my recommendation.
So I'm fine with whoever creates the committee. I was referencing his email to us that recommended that we establish a subcommittee of the board. That's where I got that idea from. But if the town manager wants to form a committee, either way.
Quite honestly, I would prefer, because this is a matter that it was suggested by the Board of Selectmen, that they form a subcommittee, and you can have people like this gentleman here come in and provide guidance without a vote at the table. You could hold a public hearing and ask representatives from all cross-sections throughout town to participate in that discussion.
So is there a motion?
So can I just confirm, you want to form the committee, or do you want us to form the committee?
I think a subcommittee of this body would be most
Okay,
appropriate.
so I am going to make a motion that the select board form a subcommittee of the board in order to review and make recommendations on a wage theft bylaw that can be approved by this board and then forwarded to town meeting for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion, sorry.
Certainly, please.
Yep. So I just want to, again, if it's too wide, it becomes more problematic. As a charge of that committee, would we require them to define how large, or does this board define the parameters of that?
How large the committee is, or how large?
The scope.
The scope of the bylaw?
Correct. Well, or who it pertains to. And again, I think Mr. Liberty said it was just for work that the town does. I would like to put that.
I do believe that's how the bylaw is proposed right now, is just for the work.
So I'm looking at the questions that Mr. Kastanovich emailed us on March 26, 2024. And those are the open questions that even Mr. Chambers had tonight. So I would like that committee to answer all those questions, wrap this thing up in a bow, hand it to us for approval or not. That includes how wide of a net, how small of a net. Is it just submitting forms, or is there a level of oversight that's needed to address the chair's concern about adding another employee? So I think I'd get concerned if we tighten the noose too much on what this subcommittee should do and not provide them the freedom to hear from the business community, hear from labor, hear from residents, hear from town meeting members, and hopefully do, their due diligence in terms of forming an actual bylaw. I don't want to, pigeonhole them into one area, since we ourselves have questions that are even outside of that area.
So the scope of the committee would be to write a new, not use that draft bylaw.
They are going to be given that draft bylaw as a starting point and then refine it, is the language I used.
So let me make this recommendation. We vote to create the committee. We all come up with what we want the charge to be. We vote on the charge at the next meeting or at the extra meeting on the 27th. That way, if people have concerns, rather than be overbroad or too short-sighted, we can all kind of throw our hat. Anybody who wants to throw their hat into this, we can then have that discussion in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Is there a second?
I think.
There was.
And had seconded.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
And before Tristan leaves, when are we getting the flag?
Bye, Tristan.
The new flag? We appoint you, you
Disconnect, Tristan.
you
Disconnect.
want more work, but you haven't finished yours, so come on now.
Have you reviewed the designs on, there are some really good ones.
Nobody's brought anything to me. So I suggest you forward that to us.
Oh, sure, they're online. I'll send the link now, here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Tristan.
Good morning.
He's going to bed. He's on Thursday.
Gotcha.
So he's done.
Gotcha.
Thank you, bye, everyone.
Have a good night.
All right, so we're moving back to number 8, town manager items, 8A.
Madam Chair, I recently met with our partners in Oxford, Charlton, and Southbridge relative to our regional agreement to providing veteran services. That agreement is expiring this coming June. So we met last week. We took a vote to renew under the state law. We can only renew for a period of 2 years. We've come to an agreement. It's been working out great. We have a part-time VSO here, part-time in Oxford, part-time in Charlton, a full-time in Southbridge. Under the current law, as a standalone, we would be required to have a full-time VSO. So we're saving the taxpayers money. There's a shared service pool or a component where things get a little busy. We lean on one another, and agreement couldn't have been crafted any better than it currently stands right now. So we voted to renew, and it does require a vote of this board.
Do board members have any questions?
Question, Mr. Kazanovich, so the town pays veterans from the budget, but then the town gets reimbursed by the state, correct?
For those eligible costs under
Yeah.
Chapter 115, we receive a 75% reimbursement.
Okay, and we don't get reimbursed unless there is an agent to seek the reimbursement.
Right.
Correct, thank you.
Those are submitted on a monthly basis and normally paid 1 year in arrears.
Okay, thank you.
So our current arrangement allows for the service officer enough time to serve the veterans in this community?
So as a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with our VSO, Michelle. She's been here about a year. She's doing a great job. Our caseload has really picked up, quite honestly. Out of the 4 communities, we have the most active claimants on our side. She's available all day on Monday, and she's available by phone 24/7. So there is a level of support she's giving after hours when a call comes in. There will be some consideration if the caseload continues to upping her hours, that would put her here maybe another half a day, another 5 hours. She's just having trouble keeping up with the caseload. So I did have a conversation with our other communities who recognize the fact that she is very active. And we're also dealing with the VA as well. A lot who do not qualify under 115. She addresses those in giving them opportunities to offer other benefits under the VA program. So we're going to see through June 30th if the caseload continues. If so, we may come in with a recommendation from additional hours. But the medical relief, I did an analysis on that. We're trending at about 108. We have $120,000 appropriated. So we do have some flexibility. If that caseload on a dollar value basis remains the same, we'll be able to pick up those additional 5 hours at no additional cost to the bottom line budget.
But, so this agreement for the 2 years will allow us still flexibility on our own to increase that workload. That's where I was going with it, is just making sure that we have that flexibility. So thank you for answering.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we renew and approve the intermunicipal agreement as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. So we have no table items. We are going back to 10A in the member items, and this one is yours, Mr. Crane. Please go ahead.
So thank you. So I just asked the town manager that if this board had a way to recognize outstanding work by public employees, specifically in this case, members of our police department, with respect to going above and beyond for the community. I was at recently a Worcester Railers game. It was military appreciation night, and dropping the puck was Officer Lundgren and Officer Biza, as well as a small child. And the announcer had mentioned an incident that happened back in January where the child went missing, and Officer Lundgren and Officer Biza played a key role in finding the child. And I'm pretty on social media a lot, but I couldn't recall the story, so I went fumbling through my phone during one of the periods, and certainly enough found a post from February 1st from our Auburn Police Department that documents the fact that on Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, at approximately 10:30 p.m., Auburn Police Department learned that a 12-year-old child left their home at approximately 8:30 p.m. and was missing in the Package Hill area. And during freezing cold temperatures, Officer Lundgren and Officer Biza, along with members of the Massachusetts State Police and Auburn Police Department, searched the area, and Officer Biza and Officer Lundgren were deployed. They were able to pick up the scent and tracked it over 2 miles from the child's house. And thanks to their work, the officers were soon able to locate and reunite the young child with their family. And so, to me, this is amazing work by our officers that I think should be recognized on a lot more than just a post on Facebook. Certainly, the Worcester Rail community realized that this is a outstanding job and recognized them, and I think that this board should do so as well. So I had asked to bring this to the board on member items to see if the board was willing to. And again, as a new member, I'm not sure the exact way that we would do this recognition, but to take a vote to, at a later meeting, provide them some recognition for a job well done.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I think maybe an appropriate time when we have that 5th meeting, when we have those presentations, there's recognition given that evening to the officer and to his dog. In addition to that, we have an employee profile, a recognition on our quarterly newsletter that we can highlight as well. And I think that things of that nature really draws out the positive aspect of what Auburn does on a day-to-day basis. So we try to recognize that in various ways. but typically, they're brought before the board and recognized publicly at one of your meetings. So I can coordinate something with the police chief to have that happen on the 29th, if that's the desire of the board.
Do board members have any questions? By all means.
More of a suggestion, if we're going to do this, I would recommend that we contact Congressman McGovern's office and Senator Moore and Representative Frost. They may wish to be here to bring their own recognition to the event. I certainly think the suggestion is well placed to use that meeting for something that is very good.
Thank you. I have to say, I also saw the Facebook post, and they absolutely deserve recognition, but they also, in addition, made a Boston News article, which was really a great thing for Auburn in general, which was nice.
It's in the quarterly newsletter as well. I know that just recently came out, but
Nice.
so we can go through that. And I do get a lot of great information on that, so it's nice to see what we're doing in the community that even is beyond our reach or my purview. So I'm not on the social media nearly as often, so I also heard about that at the same time. So, but yeah, nice to be recognized. So
Absolutely. So is there a motion?
A motion that we follow the suggestion of Mr. Crane, that we recognize Officer Lundgren and Officer Windsor, as well as what Mr. Kazanovich suggested, and that we notify the federal delegation and our state delegation, and if possible, we have it on April 27th, if not, on another appropriate night.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. There's nobody signed up for the second public comment. In our packets, we have meeting minutes from March 11th. Are there any changes or corrections? I will accept them as read. We would just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. This meeting is adjourned.